Hey, what's up you guys? Bloody Jacob here to bring you my thoughts on the 7th and final season of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Yes, I finally got there. I finished the whole show.
Stupid person.
Meeting my icon, Catherine Isabel here.
And I wasn't ready to, honestly. If you guys have watched any of my other Buffy season reviews, you know that's become easily one of my very all-time favorite shows. You guys know I've watched a lot of shows. Like I have a whole list trying to rank them. And, you know, it's like up to like 30 different shows now. And out of all those, Buffy is probably within my top 2 possibly shows of all time. It's just gotten to mean so much to me. I absolutely loved and will always love it. You know, Sarah Michelle Gellar as Buffy Summers, I think, is one of the greatest TV leads of all time. Such an excellent cast to, you know, back her up. Great chemistry, great storylines, arcs, everything. I mean, I'm gonna keep outpouring my love for Buffy for the rest of my life at this point, you know, like with everyone else. In fact, I paid a good amount of money, let's say, for a you know, custom Buffy the Vampire Slayer poster that I got a little while ago. Of course, the image, the Archons of Buffy and Angel image, but the coloring and the formatting is actually custom done. It's pretty cool. Yeah, sort of like retro, old school monster kind of you know, type right there. Excuse me, I shouldn't have moved my webcam at all. Now I have to deal with this. But okay, anyway. Buffy Season 7. I was eager yet, you know, nervous to go into this one. You know, any last season of a show, you kind of hope they stick the landing to some good extent. And, you know, I've heard mixed things about the ending and such, but I do gotta say right off the bat, I think they did it for the most part. I mean, now there are some, you know, slight missteps or some other things or, you know, kind of character, you know, interactions I wish that would have been included more or, you know, focused on more. But I think you're going to always want things like that out of any show. Like, not necessarily get the full extent of what you personally wanted. But I still thought they handled it overall pretty well for the final season of Buffy. It's not my favorite season of the show. I mean, I love every season to some extent. I have to do a separate video ranking them. But if I had to put it off at the top of my head right now, my favorite seasons are still, my favorite season is still probably season 3. Then after that, it's probably season 2, and I actually liked season 6 quite a bit. And after that, it's probably a toss-up between 7, 4, and 5 maybe, but I really like going back on 1 too. You see, that's I could flip-flop it quite a bit. But I thought it was good. I mean, I still don't get the issues people had with you know, like the last 2-3 seasons of Buffy. You always get shows with big followings like that where people complain, oh yeah, it sucked after this season or it sucked after this season. Buffy never sucked. It was always damn good, and I loved it all the way through. Now it's going to be hard to you know, go through all this season. I'm not going to be able to do that successfully, so I am going to just touch on some like general points throughout the season, give my thoughts on those and certain characters, and then like my overall stance on the final episode and ending. I should mention him right off the bat before we get into it. D.B. Woodside, who played you know, Principal Wood this season, you know, taking up the reins from Principal Snyder, right? A lot of you guys and a lot of us know him now from Lucifer as a Mendadale. So it was good seeing him on the show. I thought he was a good addition to the show. I'm glad they didn't completely go like a stereotypical, evil principal way with him. It was a little bit more dynamic and grounded than that. Thought that worked for him. At first I thought he was going to be a hindrance on the season to kind of fill it out a bit, but no, I think he contributed a little bit more than that as it went. And then I should talk about Andrew as well, the return of Andrew. Sort of like an additional comic relief for the season, but kind of a personal tie back to what happened to Tara in season 6 because of his association with Warren and everything. Sort of becomes comic relief for the team, though. I will admit I did get a bit, kind of tired of his kind of shtick as the season went along, as he got more integrated into the group. But, eventually I didn't mind him either. And, then he seemed to, eventually seriously express wanting to be with them and sort of like regret what happened. He like kept flip-flopping because his mind works and such. Then I gotta talk about Kennedy, one of the new Slayers that I recruited, which I'll get more into in a minute. Also Willow's new love interest. And I thought she was fine. I mean, I thought the actress played her competently. But I thought she was kind of I don't want to say just there. Well, kind of. I mean, she just felt like a more cardboard character compared to a character like Tara. Now, I guess I'm not sure how true this is. Someone would have to ask him again. But I guess Joss Whedon actually written an episode called A Wish or something, where Buffy actually had a chance to make any sort of wish she wanted for some reason. She considered restoring Angel's humanity, things like that. But at the end of the episode, she would actually wish Tara back to life for Willow. I thought that would have been really sweet, and I do think they should have brought Tara back. But apparently it was because Amber Benson, her schedule didn't mesh, so they didn't do it at all. It seems like for the final season they could have worked something out to still pull it off. I don't know. I prefer them bring Tara back, and yes, there was at the beginning of the season some concentration on Willow's, fallout for, losing Tara. When she's first talked to by the First, who doesn't realize it's the First, by the woman who has a connection with her. There's a really well-acted scene by Allison Hannigan where she thinks she's talking to Tara, and it's really, sweet and heartbreaking, but then you find out it's, the First doing this. And but then, once she actually gets with Kennedy, I found it kind of odd that Tara never really comes up again. So I thought that was a slight disservice. But still, I liked how Willow contributed near the end of the season, at least. Now, the Slayer recruits, I like that storyline. I mean, I think it's a good sort of a step for Buffy, especially, but Buffy and everyone to eventually, look out for, these other, potential Slayers, right? And, because the men in the black robes or whatever, are, led by, Caleb, led by the First, are, killing them off, to kind of contain it, and then when they kill Buffy, they don't have to worry about anything else, right? I thought that was a good dynamic, and Buffy and the others and kind of training them, I thought was kind of like a good final season or so plot point for the characters, I thought. Some of them were competent than others. Not necessarily all of them were going to gain the powers of the Slayer, but they still had to look out for all that. Then you had they did this in season 3. They did this, I think it was in 5 when they went after Buffy for how she handled Riley, even though it was mostly Riley's fault what happened between them. To a point. It's odd because they have such great chemistry with each other, and you really believe in the friendship of the characters, and I still do. But sometimes all of a sudden they turn on Buffy, and it's kind of odd, really well acted, but kind of okay, really. You sort of have that here a little bit. Buffy I will admit, did end up really laying into the potential Slayers, and some of the other characters pretty hard here and kind of lashing out, but sort of giving them like a very cold and solid example of their reality, which I thought was fair to a certain extent as well. I don't want to repeat what she said because I want to do it justice, but the scene is kind of pictured in the photo I just put up as well. So I'm sure if you know the show well, you know what I'm talking about. And then, speaking of the First and everything, I thought the First, it was an okay final villain. I mean, conceptually, sure, the First evil and everything. Although, I feel like the they should have done a better job connecting it to Angel in some way, because the Angel had that, the Beast storyline going on and stuff, which at first was good, but you know what that turned into. And I'll talk more about that in my Angel Season 4 review at some point. I don't know, I feel like it's the first evil so monumental. I feel like it should have came up an Angel more, or Angel showed more concern about it when he showed up to help Buffy, which we'll talk more about in a couple minutes, and it was still good for what it was. But the first as a villain, kind of forgettable, because we never had a physical example of him, or a physical manifestation of him, right? So it's kind of hard to put up against great villains like Faith at one point, or even the Master Glory or something like that, even Adam, I guess. It's odd. I kind of wish we actually got like a real form of his at some point, to kind of make him a little bit more memorable somehow. Although these Uber Vamps he awoke in, the Turricons, I probably mispronounced their name. I actually thought they were pretty sick looking, pretty good for the time of the show. I like them. Although, again, when the first one comes out, it almost kills Buffy, definitely gives her a run for her money. But yeah, there's so many of them, and then some of the recruits are able to fight them off in the finale, which is kind of odd. Joss Whedon, actually addressed this. He says he's aware of the continuing issue with the powers of the Turricons. He acknowledges that early in the season the demon is nearly unstoppable, yet in the final episode the Slayers can defeat the Turricon much more easily. Whedon explains that the story behind the season episode he wanted to get across to his viewers was more important than continuity. So, he sacrificed, consistency to tell a story how he wanted to tell it, I guess, which is fair. At least he's honest about it. He's not, coming up with some excuse or something. I thought it was fine. I mean, it's a little disappointing if you really like the first Turricon when it's introduced, but I don't know, it still didn't hurt it too much overall. It's more of a gripe or a nitpick than anything, I think, in the overall scope of the show. And then Anya, first we'll talk about Anya, then we'll talk about Faith. She had her big episodes. Anya did Selfless, and things like that, and the fallout from the marriage with Xander and everything. And then, of course, spoilers, I'm guessing you guys have all seen, Season 7 of Buffy. Anya is one of the characters actually killed in the final episode. And that's one thing, I do think there should have been more character deaths in the final season. If you notice in Buffy, not a lot of characters died. Which is fine. I think the show did a good job still keeping the story engaging, even though there aren't a lot of main character deaths throughout the show. But Anya is one of the ones we do get in the finale, and it's, pretty good. It's kind of out of nowhere. And I thought the actress always did a good job, even though kind of her shtick got a little bit tiresome over the seasons as well for me. And I felt like she was one of the more expendable characters, one of the more easy characters to kill off, I guess. That I know a lot of people liked her, but I never was really overly crazy about her. So I was actually glad when they decided to kill someone off, at least. I still like the touch, with Andrew saying, why did I survive, maybe sort of taking on some of that survivor's guilt, and it sort of helps him through the school and everything. And then, Xander saying, that's my girl, and she, we knows how she went out. Xander losing his eye to Caleb. Caleb, by the way, I had seen pictures of Xander with the eye patch before. I was wondering how it would happen. But yeah, it's because of Caleb, basically trying to gouge his eyes out. Caleb, as one of our sort of secondary antagonists besides the first itself, is sort of this crazed, preacher, misogynist kind of guy, imbued with these powers. Actually pretty threatening. I mean, at first he sort of comes across more as a villain out of like True Blood or something with his accent. So at first he's like, okay, but I think he kind of got to me more as the season went on. I thought he worked fairly well as another villain for the final season, I guess. And you could tell Nathan Fillion, did put his all into the role, so it was pretty fun on that end. And then we do gotta talk about Faith. Faith, played by Eliza Dushku, who I absolutely love. Of course, she was a focus in my favorite season of the show, season 3. I've absolutely loved her episodes on Angel in the first season of Angel, and the episode she got in Angel season 4, again, some of the very best. Definitely explored more and fleshed out more as a character on Angel than she is on Buffy, but it was still good to see her. I'll talk more about her episodes in Angel, obviously, when I review the 4th season, but still necessary that she come back to Buffy in the final season, for sure, to sort of redeem herself, from those character perspectives as well. Thought it was well handled, and sort of her honesty and sort of more kind of transparency with Buffy worked nicely, not wanting to step on Bee's toes, right? And then kind of pushing Buffy when she needed to be pushed as well. And then Buffy eventually sort of getting more trust and sort of respect and sort of forgiveness to her as it went on. I love when Buffy hands her the axe in that final fight, within the Hellmouth and such. It's a very, very grand, feels, satisfying moment there. Her romance with Principal Wood kind of came out of nowhere. I always actually kind of liked the idea of her and Angel together. Angel and Faith, right? But, it worked, and it's kind of blow off the steam, right? But you can tell maybe Faith does care a little bit more than she lets on, and she is still a good foil there for Buffy and the other potentials, towards the last part of the season. So I thought she definitely fit in, and it's definitely necessary to, bring that dynamic back with her. And then, the overall season was very good. Although it did bring maybe one of my least favorite episodes of the series, if I have to pick one, and that was probably episode 6, Him. Young women of Sunnydale are falling for the high school quarterback as a result of a magic jacket. I like Xander and Spike becoming roommates, by the way. I kind of wish they would have done more, scenes on that. But they try to sort out the confusion. I don't know, I just thought it felt more like a season 1 sort of episode. I didn't think it did any of the characters favors, seeing them fawn over the guy, even though it wasn't really their choice. I don't know, I think it kind of took away, if anything, and at best it's like let's just forget that episode. Still, there's some good ones in there. I could talk about each and every one of them, but it would just, take the video way too long. Now the final episode, Chosen. I thought it was I wished for more, maybe more one-on-one scenes between Buffy and Giles in the final season, and especially the final episode. I feel like they could have tied that back a little more. I always kind of wanted Buffy's, Buffy's dad to make a reappearance, and then actually play on that, father-daughter dynamic Buffy and Giles do have. I kind of wish that was brought up more. Because that's one of my favorite things out of season 3 as well, how he possesses a father's love for the child, as said by the council, who was blown up this season. So I wanted more Buffy and Giles together. But really, the more I've thought about it, and ever since I finished it, I am overall pretty satisfied with the final episode. It is probably within my few favorite series finales of all time, because I did really enjoy what we did get. The fight with all the Turricons and everything, I thought was very, very cool, very, very engaging, and some of the potential Slayers do actually die, kind of the more squirmy, sort of one of the weaker, dark-haired ones, the skinny, kind of taller one, she dies. I feel like more of them probably should have died realistically, but again, it's one of those things. And of course, when Buffy uses this axe, I thought it was handled really nicely when she hands it to Faith and everything as well. And then probably one of, adjusting the webcam again, probably one of the most epic moments of the entire series is when you see Buffy eventually rise up, stand up, and you have that music you hear on the the title screen of the DVD. Just an unforgettable moment, and she just lays into all of them, and it's fucking great. She tells the first off and everything. And then before we get to the final part of it, we do gotta talk about Spike a bit, who has gotten his soul back and sort of lost within his own mind at the beginning of the season. That eventually helps, train some of the potentials. Felicia Day, who a lot of you know from Supernatural, yes, was in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And then he has a really nice moment with Buffy, eventually when they do connect again, she asks him to stay. Whether she truly loves him or not, there's still a great bond and, new respect and some form of love found in there, I think. And Spike's speech to Buffy in that episode I showed with the bed and everything, I thought was very well written, delivered by James Marsters. And yeah, Spike's sacrifice, Buffy says, just like the girl said earlier in the season, kind of around the same Willow and, Tara moment. Buffy says it. She says, "I love you." And then, of course, Spike, no, you don't, but he thanks her for saying it anyway. And it's Spike that's able to, using that necklace and everything else with Willow's power, is able to wipe out the entire army and finally put away the first. So yeah, then you get that classic, it's a classic shot of Buffy and the whole Scooby Gang, along with, Faith, of course, who I think is included now. It was great to see Faith make it to the end and, become a fully, redeemed and good character. Again, loved her on Angel, and it was great to see her back on here, too. And then they all ask her what they're going to do now. And, there's that close-up of Buffy smiling, and the credits roll. So I thought that was actually really well handled. It didn't overdo it. I think it played onto the strengths of most of the characters well. And it leaves it off on sort of an open, ambiguous note, but one that's set, sort of still semi-subtle with the characters, what their fates all are for now, and full of hope, and that things are moving forward and such. So I thought it was a overall well-rounded ending for the show. I will probably watch, or read the comics at some point, which I guess are in canon. I've read some plot points that some of those take some of the directions. It's kind of weird. I don't really know. I mean, unless it's the actors that bring them to life, I think when it comes to comic continuations, it's sort of up to us whether we take it as what actually happened later or not. I'll still probably check them out, but there's a couple weird things with that. I'll give you my thoughts if I ever do read them. But even if I don't, I'm satisfied with Thoroughly Left Buffy. Of course, I wanted more, and I still hope for an X-Files style reunion, show at some point. I don't know. But yeah, it's still easily one of the greatest shows of all time, no question. One of my very all-time favorite shows I have a love for like no other. It's one of those very special shows to me, like Being Human and some of the others that actually genuinely helps me when I watch it. If I'm having a bad day or I have something I'm kind of going through, Buffy is one of those that really actually do make me feel better. So I can't really thank it enough for that. So yeah, let me guys still have the 7th season of Buffy. Where does it rank among the other seasons for you? Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, like, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.